All the excitement from the previous season left most drivers like Daniel Ricciardo and George Russell with opinions on how they felt about what happened in the season, other drivers, and its impact on the sport. If you are interested in the details, you'd have to watch the entire video. Welcome to Race Pace. Mercedes have confirmed that Hamilton will race in their colors, despite the radio silence Hamilton maintained after losing to Max Verstappen controversially in Abu Dhabi last season. Many people watched how Hamilton lost out on what would have been his 8th victory, and some assumed because of that Hamilton would retire. This rumor was further amplified by the principal and CEO of the Mercedes team, Toto Wolff, mentioning that Hamilton was not happy with the way his race and season ended. If you watched the race, you would probably not blame Hamilton for being unhappy. The long radio silence from Hamilton left fans in limbo because Lewis Hamilton posted nothing on his socials. No one knew which way it would go. These rumors were put to rest when Hamilton finally broke his radio silence and posted on his social media account. Lewis Hamilton's post coincided with that of Mercedes. Their post sent a strong message that hinted that Hamilton would not retire just yet. The matter was finally settled when Mercedes announced that Lewis Hamilton would be their driver for the upcoming season. This is one that any fan of the sport will be happy about. I mean, who doesn't want to see Hamilton go for his 8th victory with drivers like Max Verstappen looking to deny him a victory once again? Anyway, let us know down in the comments, who do you think will come out on top in the rivalry in the coming season? The news was posted in a news release. It also mentioned that Hamilton would be driving with the newcomer George Russell, who did not have a lot of good things to say about the W13, which is the new car for Mercedes in the 2022 season. First impressions of W13 have been interesting, Russell said on the Mercedes YouTube channel. It's a very different car to the previous era, and the characteristics of how the downforce is completely different, so we're still learning as we are going. George Russell further stated that I think everyone wants to go into the first race and have the fastest car possible, but what will be more important is understanding what your limitations are and how you're going to improve from these limitations to build the best foundation possible. After the launch of the W13, it will be taken on the track for its first test run. The 23-year-old Mercedes driver George Russell, who hinted that the Mercedes team wouldn't be the only team that would suffer from the drawbacks of the new specifications. I foresee a lot of people being in the same boat. George Russell later went on to state that, "We are just learning so much day after day, whether it be in the winter or in the simulator, and I think it's going to be a year of development." The implication of Hamilton continuing to race in Formula One means that the grid for the 2022 season, which kicks off in March, is complete, so now other teams can rest easier knowing that Mercedes is not coming for their drivers this season, which I think would be big shoes for most drivers to fill. With the current lineup of drivers, do you think Mercedes would have found a suitable replacement if Lewis Hamilton had retired as rumored? On the 23rd of February, Lewis Hamilton made his return to Formula One in the city of Barcelona for the preseason testing. Hamilton's teammate George Russell had declared that McLaren and Ferrari were the teams to beat going into the new season after the second day of racing in Barcelona. Still, Hamilton placed the Silver Arrows back on top with a late surge on the final day. Hamilton produced the quickest lap of the 3-day test on the C5 tires, while Russell finished second, just a tenth slower than Hamilton's pace with his own C5 run on the morning of day 3. So it was Mercedes 1 and 2 again, but Hamilton isn't letting it lead to any speculation about Mercedes' pace compared to the other 9 teams. Seeing how strong Hamilton has started for Mercedes, Hamilton will want to take advantage of the subsequent testing period in anticipation of the first Grand Prix set to take place in Bahrain. Daniel Ricciardo probably had the best view of the fierce vehicular battle that happened during the Abu Dhabi race last season, when Verstappen overtook Hamilton to win the title. Poor application of the rules by the former director of Formula One Masi created a situation where Ricciardo and the rest of the lapped cars were not allowed to overtake the leaders. The infamous call from Masi was discovered to have been against the FIA regulations, which specified what a director should do in situations where there is a safety car on the tracks. However, this car from Masi worked in Max Verstappen's favor, because Max had the opportunity to change his tires. Because of this tire change, Max Verstappen was able to overtake Lewis Hamilton, who was still driving with worn-out tires. Max Verstappen managed to stay ahead of the Mercedes driver, Lewis Hamilton, after overtaking him at the inside of the third turn. Even with worn-out tires, Lewis Hamilton was not far behind the Dutchman Verstappen, who had to fend off two counter moves Hamilton made to regain his lead. Verstappen managed to hold the lead while battling with leg cramps to clutch up one of the most iconic wins in Formula One history. Watching from the cockpit of his McLaren, Daniel Ricciardo had a good view of all that went down between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. An ESPN interviewer asked him if Daniel Ricciardo had a good view of Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, it was a privilege. It was funny, there was not only one lap to go. My race it wasn't a good Sunday for me. I was really a spectator in that last lap. Even though going through turn 2 and 3, I could see Max was kinda close. It's like, is Lewis gonna defend? What's going on? I'm pretty sure I saw his light flash, like, is he clipping on the last lap? I thought he'd have all the battery to use. That's when Max went to the pass. I said, how is this happening? I was watching as a fan in 2008 at the Brazilian Grand Prix, the last lap drama with Max and Hamilton. It was a lot to process. Following the conclusion of the race in Abu Dhabi, Daniel Ricciardo's had his post-race messages were broadcast, which gained a lot of popularity. In the post-race message, Daniel Ricciardo said, "I've got no idea what they did with letting cars through. Obviously, I wasn't really in that anyway, but it seems strange." Daniel Ricciardo went on to add that, "I'm glad I'm not a part of that. Whatever just happened, it seemed pretty effed up." Ricciardo later spoke on his post-race message to McLaren. Daniel Ricciardo claimed he felt sympathetic towards the Mercedes driver, Lewis Hamilton. "I was like, man, how would you feel if you're Hamilton right now? You're leading, then safety car, and then this. Whoa, it's a lot to take in. After the race, my radio was broadcast, and I said I wasn't a part of that. It was too much to handle. So for that reason, I was probably glad I wasn't part of what was going on in Hamilton's head at that moment." Ricciardo also felt sorry for his fellow countryman Masi, who came under heavy criticism after his controversial safety car call. Daniel stated that it was a lose-lose situation for Masi and that the odds were against him. The Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, after concluding its investigation of the Abu Dhabi incident, came to the decision to remove Masi as the director after the FIA came to the conclusion that Masi did not apply the rules properly and replaced the Australian. FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem announced a series of structural changes as part of a step forward for Formula One refereeing, one of which is that former DTM race director Niels Wittich and WEC race director Eduardo Freitas will alternate as F1 race directors. That's it for the video. Don't hesitate to let us know what you think in the comments section, and don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to this channel to get more videos, and click the bell button to enable notifications.